welcome to the call. For those of you who are on Facebook Live, I'd love to hear from you. Oh, we got Sherry Marr who just joined. So thank you, Sherry, for joining the call. We got a couple of people who are joining. People are jumping on right now. And so I want to, tonight's discussion really is called The Three Truths About the Overly Productive Woman. So just to give you some logistics for tonight, I want to point out that there's an important email that at the end of this session, if you're interested in being considered for a free seat in our upcoming women's retreat, then I'm going to give you that email. It's info@schoolofep.com. I'll tell you that again at the end of the session, but I want to give away a free seat. And tonight's session is free because I have a mission for women. And in business every day, I see women who are brilliant, who are very talented and very skilled, and they really struggle in so many ways and try to sometimes just be overproductive and wear themselves out very quickly and then wonder, why they're exhausted at the end of the day. So I wanted to address this, and I really do have a mission for women. I like to be an encouragement to them. I like to help women get out of the prisons that they sometimes create for themselves, and my goal is tonight is just to have discussions with you about some of the things that we do, some of the truths about us, and I want to give you some things to be thinking about. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Angie Nuttall, and I own the Corporate Talent Institute. I'm the CEO of my own business, and I have lots of job titles, and so I want to talk to you tonight as Angie Nuttall, not Angie Nuttall, business owner. I just want to talk to you as Angie Nuttall, a woman. And I have lots of job titles, and you do too. So, if any of these job titles resonate with you, let me know. And just be thinking about, well, what are some of the job titles that you have? This week alone, I've had some job titles like the traveling roadshow manager. I've been on the road. Dishwasher. I have been a crisis coach. I have been a nursing home cheerleader. I've been a dog detective. I've been the dog police. I've been a cheerleading trainer for my daughter, a child transportation expert, a meal strategy prep queen, a dog waste removal expert, a budget analyst, a doer of stuff, computer troubleshooter, all of these titles that I've earned this week. And I'm just curious and anyone can call this out, but what are some of the job titles that you've had this week? And if you're on Facebook Live, you're welcome to type that in. Julie, what's a job title that you've had this week?
I coached several people this week.
Okay. So you've had on the coach's hat?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say some conflict resolution.
All right.
Well.
All right. Yeah, I mean, especially being in HR, conflict it's one of the skills that you have to have, and I'm sure that you get to practice it quite often. Yeah. So so we all wear lots of hats, and we all have lots of different job titles, and I know that all of you really could think of several things that really describe you. And so Sherry says she's a troubleshooter, she's a problem solver. Yeah. Even just down to, if you think about, getting up in the morning, what are some of the things that you do? What are some of the things that you feel like are part of your routine that you have to just get knocked out? For me, I don't know about you, but I have a value around just cleaning up. And so I find myself while I'm making coffee, I'm just picking up stuff, cleaning up stuff, and it's just a part of my MO. So I'm also the cleaning police. But this really leads me to what the overly productive woman really is and who she is. And, the overly productive woman how it came about was I found myself in transition. And during this process of transition, I started writing my next book, which is going to be coming out, and it's going to be called Compose Your Soul. And I was really intent on figuring out what can I do to really help compose my soul. And just dealing with women on a daily basis, I realized that a lot of times we get ourselves worked up. We get ourselves, we are constantly handling crisis, and we're always the go-to people fixing things. And so how do we live a life where we really feel like we can rest and be peaceful? So I started writing this book, and it was going along fine. And then for those of you who know me well, you know that we are in the process of building a house, and it's been an interesting situation because our house sold very quickly and we found ourselves in transition, and so we needed to move into my mother's house until our house could finish being built, which it's being built right now. As a matter of fact, my office right now is in one of my mom's spare rooms, which is pretty interesting. And what I realized in this transition is I was trying to do everything. I was trying to pack up, trying to get moved, trying to take care of my daughter, trying to manage a business. I'm third year into my own consulting firm and trying to manage that business, and finding myself always making people happy, and really just trying to find some kind of balance in the midst of this chaos. And it came to a point where my husband confronted me and he said, Angie, he says, you're working so much, you're doing so much, and we really don't see you a lot. And so at that point I said, this is I work with lots of people on balancing their lives, and so it really is time for me to do the same thing myself. It's time for me to balance out my life. And so I did an experiment for 2 weeks, and for 2 weeks I desperately tried to fit in between the hours of 9 to 5 my business. And part of that was due to the transition we were in. I was having to drive my daughter to school, so I was the chauffeur, I was the cook, I was the cleaner, and then trying to run the business. And I got to where I was so busy that I was literally running from my office to the restroom, just trying to make up minutes so that I could get the work done. And it was really crazy. I even thought, gosh, maybe I should invest in Depends diapers just so that I can, cram in more stuff in this time and meet and try to create balance that way. And then I would put down the electronics and try to sit with the family at night. And I realized that I was trying to do this because I was trying to make other people happy. And so when I finally realized that, I wasn't doing this for me. I was doing this for other people. And my husband was on his electronics, my daughter was on her electronics. I'm like, why am I doing this? I have a natural algorithm. I like to be busy. I like to be productive. But I also recognize that I had on that badge of busyness. That badge of busyness where we say, oh gosh, I'm so busy. I have so much to do. And the question is, why do we do that? And so that was the journey that I started to go on to say, well, why do we do that? And what can we do to really just have a sense of peace and intention in our lives and take off that badge of busyness that really isn't getting us anywhere and helping us to be productive. So, if you think about your own life and what you're doing on a daily basis, do you have that badge of busyness on? Are you wearing that badge of busyness? How many times this week have you said, oh gosh, I'm so busy? How are you doing? I'm so busy. Well, I decided to change that terminology from saying I'm so busy to, well, I'm being overly productive. So I really tried to positively reframe it, and that's where the overly productive woman was really born. So tonight I want to share with you 3 truths, and this is a 4-part series. So this Thursday night and then the next 3 Thursday nights, I'm going to share with you 3 new truths every night. So the 3 that I've chosen tonight it's really just designed to kick it off for us, and it's designed to help us think about and assess, where all of our overproductiveness is really coming from and why we do it to ourselves. Why is it that we do it? So I'm going to share the very first truth with you. And the first truth is that we as women really put lots of undue pressure upon ourselves. So I want that to sink into you. We as women tend to put lots of undue pressure upon ourselves. So let that sink in deep and think about what that means to you. And while you're thinking about that, I just want to share just a quick story. I was listening to the radio the other day, and they were talking about this very topic about being busy. And this woman was on the radio, and she was talking about, oh gosh, I've been so busy. You know, she had the badge of busyness on. And she says, I was so busy. My daughter was graduating from college, and I had to get everything ready for her party. Hey, Tammy, I see you're joining Facebook Live. Good to have you. So, you know, the woman, even on the radio, was sounding so frantic, like I had to do all of this stuff. I had to make the cake, I had to get the decorations ready, and everything had to just be so perfect. And then she said, you know, I was so busy that I have not taken a shower for 5 days. When I heard that, I was like, wow, what would drive someone to do that? And what would cause somebody to not even just take 5 minutes, she was so busy that she couldn't take 5 minutes to take a shower? And so I bring it back to the question of, why? Why do we put so much pressure upon ourselves? And so, Tammy, you're saying poor planning. Yeah, it could be poor planning. And it could also be something deeper than that. And it could be something more along the lines of, hey, I have to have everything perfect. I have to, I need to be needed, and so I need to keep going until it's all done. Maybe there's a drive, there's something internal that's driving that person. And maybe it's even just, if they feel like they stop and if something falls apart, like they're not going to be enough, that we're not going to be enough, and but if at the same time we put every effort into everything that we're doing, maybe somehow we'll gain some approval. We will establish our worth and our value. And for some, if you think about, gosh, you hear people say, oh, I've been so busy and I've had this situation happen and this, and we create this laundry list of all of these things that are going on. And maybe sometimes people say, or sometimes we as women do that because we want someone to say, oh gosh, you really are doing so much. And in our minds, that's almost like a validation. We need validation to know that we're okay. And we also need someone to be hearing us, and we need someone to be seeing us. So, what is the fear there? Why is it that we put this undue pressure upon ourselves? It's something to look at. What is it that we fear? Are we afraid we're going to miss out on something? Are we afraid we're going to be seen a certain way? So the second truth that I want to share with you is that we hear voices. We hear voices, and no, you're not schizophrenic as far as I know, but we hear voices inside of our heads, and I call these inner critics. Well, we have inner critics. We also have some good voices in our heads. But basically, what we have inside of us is we have this internal committee. And I don't know what the name of your committee is, but mine's the decision-making committee. It's my CEO executive inner board that works with me, and I've got committee members. And if you can just imagine sitting at a round table, and there's a chair at the head of that table who is in the driver's seat and making all of the decisions. And then there are these other members around this table who help to drive decisions. And sometimes an inner critic gets in the decision-making seat for you and causes you to put that undue pressure upon yourself. So I'll just share with you some of the people members that are on my inner committee. So one of my most important committee members is what I call crystal clear. So I have a strong value and a strong need to get clarity about what's going on around me. And so crystal clear is actually a friend. Crystal clear is someone who helps me to make good decisions because I understand exactly what the objectives are for something. I know exactly what to plan, and I know the path that I want to take. So I also have a member on my committee, and I call her Madam CEO. And I was actually given this title when I was going through executive coaching certification, and my fellow colleagues who were going through that certification with me said, one day you're going to be Madam CEO. Well, luckily that turned out to be true. I am the CEO of my own company, which is fantastic. But when I think about Madam CEO, I think of, the person who's able to step up, and the woman who's able to step up with confidence and make the decisions that are necessary, whether it be in the business, whether it be in a family matter, if it's even necessary to call Madam CEO for so that I can decide what we're going to cook for supper for the week. Madam CEO is my decision maker. But I've got some other members on my board who aren't so sensitive and aren't so helpful to me, and one of those is the school marm. So I got a school marm on my committee who is usually scolding me. And I remember when I was in the first grade, I had this teacher, Mrs. C. Jones, and she didn't like me because I was a cut up. I was laughing all the time, cutting up all the time, and I used to laugh and joke because really one of my biggest values is around laughter. It's around laughter and having a good time, being a jokester. And she had great pleasure in putting me in the corner and setting me apart from the other kids and making an example of me. So I've got school marm on my committee who sometimes interferes with me making the right decisions that I need to. And so I've got some other, I've got the imposter syndrome. A lot of us struggle with the voice that tells us that we're an imposter. You may have even experienced that this week where you were in a situation, maybe you didn't feel as confident as you needed to feel about it, and that voice on your committee is saying, hey, you know what? You don't belong here. You're not fitting in this situation. What are you doing here? Who do you think you are? So those voices they're very real, and they speak to us, and they are definitely something that we have to deal with. So it is one of those truths that we have to face and deal with. So the third truth that I want to share with you is that we carry around a lot of junk in our purses. We have a lot of junk in our purses. So what do you have in your purse? If you think about it right now, what are some of the contents in your purse? Hi Sherry, hi Debbie, thanks for joining the call. Well, for those of you who can see the video, I got my purse with me. This is my purse. I get a lot of compliments on it because on the outside it's nice and shiny and purple, and people really like this purse. I think in most places that I go, I usually get a compliment on this purse. But inside this purse, there is a hot mess in here. And I carry around a lot of junk in this purse. For example, I've got my smaller wallet. I actually take this out, and it has all my cards with it. And if I want to go shopping, I just pull this right out of my giant purse and I take it with me because it's a lot lighter. Because this thing is heavy. I've got an umbrella in here. I've got a tin box full of electronic equipment and thumb drives, and I've got my passport. I have another wallet. I've got coupons for Bed Bath & Beyond. I've got my checkbooks. I've got Kleenexes that I've dried my eyes from my allergies. I've got keys. I have a chocolate bar. Where did I get my purse? I actually got this purse at a conference that I was speaking at for women entrepreneurs, and they had a vendor set up there. Yeah, so I get a lot of people who ask me that, and if I can send you the name of that person if you want to know. I also have a name stamp, and I just have, you know, I've got a necklace. I've just got a lot of trash in here, and you know, so I want you to be thinking about what is the junk that you're carrying around in your purse. And I'm not necessarily talking about your coupons and your used Kleenexes and, you know, all of your checkbooks and the chocolate bars and all of the things that you, I mean, I don't even know what this is for. I've got a little, I think this is for the dogs, but we carry around a lot of unnecessary junk in our purse. So if you think about yourself as a purse, you know, what does your purse say about you? What does it look like? You know, what I like to say about our purse is that, you know, it's really like our best friend. Most of us women, we don't go anywhere without that purse. We carry it with us. Everything gets stuffed down into it. And so what are you stuffing down into your purse? Think about it metaphorically. Are there things that you need to take out of that purse? Do you need a good cleaning out of your purse? Chances are you have done some exercises in cleaning out your purse. And by the way, one thing that I will recommend to you that will be very cathartic for you is simply to clean out your purse and just realize the sense of accomplishment that you have in just doing that and getting you on the right, you know, on the right path to just feeling a bit more organized. But, you know, your purse really equates to life. So what are you stuffing in there? So take some time to think about where you need to really assess yourself. So where are you putting undue pressure on yourself? So think about that. I want to give somebody a moment to respond to that. Where are you putting undue pressure on yourself? Where are you creating expectations for yourself that nobody else is really holding those expectations of you except for you? It could be that you feel like before you leave the house every day, you have a big laundry list of things that you have to do before you walk out of the house. And what value does that add to you at the end of the day? Do you find yourself doing so many things and you're afraid that you're going to drop the ball somewhere and you're being driven by fear? So what are you doing to put undue pressure on yourself? The second area I want you to assess yourself on is who is in your driver's seat? Who's on your committee and who is sitting at the head of that table? Who is it that's primarily making decisions for you? What are the members on your committee? Who is it that's talking to you? What are those voices that are talking to you? What are they saying? Are they lifting you up or are they tearing you down? So take some time to really evaluate who is sitting on that committee. And one thing that I recommend for you to do is just really to just get a piece of paper and even draw a picture of a table with some circles for some chairs and just start identifying, okay, well, how am I making my decisions? Who's talking to me the loudest? And then the third thing to assess yourself is think of yourself in terms of your purse. What do you need to take out of your purse? And what do you need to keep in? Because usually when we take something away, we know that when we take something away, we typically have to replace it with something. And I teach this in the School of Executive Presence that, you know, when you replace something, then, you know, it fills the void. But if you take something away and you don't fill that void, then something else has a tendency to come back. It just comes back and it haunts you. And sometimes it can be a bigger problem than when you began with. So, I mean, if you think about these things and the fact that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, we carry around a lot of junk in our purses, and we have a lot of inner critics, I want you to think about the rest of this week. It's a short week, but you've got Friday tomorrow. And where are there certain times during the day where you feel like you are more vulnerable than others? Is there a certain person that maybe you get around and you find yourself listening to those inner critics, and those inner critics are trying to shut you down and trying to drag you down? Is there a certain situation or a certain event that really is impacting you and you feel like you're just crumbling under the pressure, and you've set up such high standards for yourself that no one could possibly accomplish those, and so you really set yourself up for failure? Then I want you to turn around and I want you to be thinking about, when was the last time that you really took time to just be intentional and to fill your own bucket? When was that time? You know, I had an interesting trip. So I had to go to Washington D.C. earlier in the week, and I had an event there, and the original intent was that I was going to meet up with my son, and I was really looking forward to it. We haven't seen each other in a year. He's in the Coast Guard. He's a handsome fella, and I really miss him and would love to see him. And so we had it worked out to where I would go over to Washington D.C. for, go a day early. And it turns out that he was called out on a mission. And when he was called out on a mission, here comes the inner critic talking to me like, oh, you're going to have a miserable time. And then here comes undue pressure saying, well, you need to just get in there in the hotel and crank out some more work while you have time. And then there was this other part of me that says, no, part of my goal is to compose my soul. And I can't be any good for anyone else if I'm not taking care of myself. So I decided to honor some values that I had put away for a long, long time. And I am an adventurer. I love adventure. I love freedom, and I have a big value around freedom. So I decided that when I got to Washington, D.C., I was actually staying in Reston, and there's a Reston Town Center there that's really awesome. I discovered it was very awesome. And so I got to my hotel early, and they weren't ready for me to check in, so I had the driver take me and just drop me in the middle of the town center of Reston. And I just walked around without really having to have a schedule or be required to do anything. And it was so fantastic just to be free and not be putting those extra pressures on me. It wasn't going to matter if I cranked out more work. I could have easily just got to town, or I could have gotten really busy and just done a lot of work that at the end of the day, it might not have gotten me a big return on investment. I just would have done some busy work. And so I wandered around town, and I decided to be spontaneous. I got a facial. I haven't had a facial in over 5 years. I never really have taken the time to go and get my nails done, or do the things that a lot of women really do, because I've just spent so much time being a workaholic. And so I went and was very excited. I went to the Elizabeth Arden Day Spa and asked for their best facial. So I went in, I was all excited. It was really cool. The atmosphere was awesome. I got to wear the bathrobe, and they gave me something to drink, which was really awesome. And so then I went in and I started having the facial, and it was really great. I thought, man, is this what I've been missing? Is this the thing that, I really should be doing to take care of myself, and really just giving my chance to slow down? So no one ever told me that a facial would be really painful too at the same time. So I was having my facial, feeling pretty good, and then the lady who was doing my face, she said, well, have you ever had extractions? And I said, no, I don't think so. And the next thing I knew, I felt like my face was being a pincushion, and it was painful. It hurt. I really had to work to not cry out. And so after that, it was pretty traumatic. And then if you've ever gone and had one done, you know, they also do your hands, and they put your hands in the paraffin gloves, and so you can't really touch anything, but then they go and they glob a bunch of goop on your face and leave you in the room for about 5 to 10 minutes by yourself, and that goop starts dripping in your eyes, and you can't really itch your eyes because you've got these big fluffy gloves on. And so it was really uncomfortable. And finally the lady came back in and she says, "Is everything okay?" And at that moment I was so tempted to just stuff some junk in my purse. Metaphorically speaking, I was tempted to just say, "Yeah, I'm fine, you know, I'm okay." But the uncomfortableness was so prevalent and so in my face that I said, "Well, I am uncomfortable. I've got stuff dripping in my eyes." And she couldn't see it because it was clear. And so I chose not to stuff that junk in my purse and stuff it down. And I walked away with a really good experience, a glow on my face. I haven't had that in years, and I had been looking pretty tired. But I took away from that, you know, even when you're treating yourself well, it seems to be a little bit painful at times, and it seems like there's no way to really get around the painfulness when you're trying to grow and when you're trying to take care of yourself. And so as you're thinking about how are you going to really compose your soul, and how are you going to manage your overproductivity, you know you've got to take care of yourself, but it really is, there is some pain involved. That means that when you're saying yes to you, that means that there are some things that you got to learn to say no to. And so what are those things? What are those things that you need to be saying no to? So I was talking about you hearing voices and your committee, and then there's this voice. It's called the should voice. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I get a case of the shoulditis. And you know, the should monster will come in and say, "Well, you know that you should be tending to your responsibilities. You know you shouldn't be spending that money on that facial, or you know you should be doing this." And so where does the should monster show up for you? Where is that voice showing up, and when does it tend to show up for you? So that usually happens for me, you know, just in all transparency, it usually happens for me when I am trying to take some time for myself. So, you know, when I was in Washington, D.C., after I had my facial, I thought, wow, I just spent a lot of money, so I should probably go back to the hotel and just crank out some work. But again, I decided that no, I'm going to be intentional about the day, and I really am going to fill my own bucket. And so I walked around town, and there was an art festival, and I happen to love art. And those of you that know me well know that I am an artist, and my mother and I, we have an art business that we do shows from time to time. And so I was able to just take in the day, and I purposely disciplined myself so that I wouldn't rush myself, and just took in the day and just really stopped and looked at the art, which is something that I like to do. And the only reason why I decided to go back is because my feet were hurting. And it was a decision where I decided that my overproductivity was not going to rule me. It wasn't going to control me. It wasn't going to rule me. But I knew that in order for me to be good for other people, I had to take care of myself. And a lot of times what we find is that people may not always respect you or see you as valuable as you would like for them to see you, is because maybe you're not valuing yourself as much as you should. So when people see you valuing yourself, they're more likely to raise their level of value as well about you. Now, should you be trying to work for that? No. No, really, your job is to figure out how you can value yourself so that you can break free of any invisible prison that you've created for yourself, so that you can step up and live in the mission that you have been called to do. And that's what this all comes down to, is mission. What is your mission? What are you designed to do? What do you feel drawn to? And are you doing it? And what's in the way of that? Is there something in the way of you stepping in to the mission? Are you clear about that mission? So once you have figured out your mission, the next question is, do you have the mindset to be able to live that mission? And the 3 truths that I've shared with you tonight about putting undue pressure upon yourself, hearing the voices and dealing with that internal committee that's operating inside of you, and carrying all the junk around in your purse, that really has to do with your mindset. And every woman who is listening right now has the power to shift your mindset. You have the power to live a mission, and you live in choice. So what choices are you making? Are you making choices that really cause you to live in alignment with your mission and your values? Or have you been on the hamster wheel? Have you just been going to work every day, showing up in whatever your routine is, and running on that hamster wheel and just going, never really getting anywhere, and just find yourself caught up in the day-to-day? And that's where the overly productive woman can find herself, is on that hamster wheel. The overly productive woman can also find herself wandering around in the wilderness aimlessly, especially if you don't know what your mission is, because you're so clouded by all of the things that are going on and all of the inner critics that are talking to you. And we haven't even talked about the people outside of you who have their own agendas and their own missions. We'll save that for another night. Tonight it really is about you and what's working on the inside of you, and assessing that, and really coming to terms with, what have you got going well inside of you, and what are the things that you're really struggling with, that are these conditions that have put you in this invisible prison that you may be in. I want to tell you that you have the ability and you have the power to choose how life is going to go for you. And that you don't have to wander around in the wilderness. I mean, we women in particular, I'll tell you this, I just know this from experience, because, I've been here myself, and sometimes I get stuck in the wilderness of work. And if you think about the wilderness, there are 3 things that we really try to do. First of all, in the wilderness of work, we find ourselves just trying to survive. We find ourselves just trying to survive, and we come home after a day on the hamster wheel, and we sit on the couch, or, we do absolutely what we have to do. If one of our job titles is executive chef, we get in there, we cook the dinner, we help the kids with their homework, we take our kids to their sports activities, we're doing things to take care of our spouses and our families. And then by the time all of that's done, which we are last, we're plopping on the couch, and even staying up later and later just so we could have a moment to ourselves. But by the time we get to that place, we're so exhausted we can't even really enjoy that time. Is that you? So in the wilderness of work, we also find ourselves sacrificing. And I'm a woman who, I really have to talk to myself about this in particular, because I find myself sacrificing. So, if I just do more work, then, in the end, it's going to pay off. And I think that there is some truth to that. But what happens is when you have an overgrowth of this, and you're constantly focusing on sacrificing all the time, and there's not really any fruit that supports that, there's no evidence of that, or the return on investment is extremely low, that sacrifice is really in vain. And what it serves to do is it serves to exhaust us. And then finally, this is another big one for me too, and it's in the wilderness of work, we're trying to prove ourselves. We're trying to, if I just do this, then I'll be accepted. If I just show up this way, then someone will finally notice me and life will be great. Have you ever thought that? Have you caught yourself thinking that this week? Where, if I just perform well on this, then suddenly I'll get that promotion. Or if I just behave this way, then this other person will start to behave with higher levels of emotional intelligence. We're always looking for that trade-off, and we're always bargaining in our minds. And it can very easily be a trap. I love referencing the wilderness of work, and I like to reference the children of Israel because, they had an 11-mile trip, and it took them 40 years to get there. And how many of us are walking that same path? So think about that and just examine yourself and see if you're wandering around in the wilderness of work, if you are just dishing out all kinds of work and your ROI, your return on investment, is just, very minimal. You're not getting out what you're putting into it. You know what the definition of insanity is. You keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, then it's a tough thing to deal with. So what are the things that you want to do for yourself? What is an area in your life where you really want to have some type of control? What is an area where you feel like you can be even more valuable? What is it that you really yearn for? Are you yearning for solitude? Are you yearning for freedom? Are you yearning for something more? Maybe it is living a deeper life of meaning. Is that what you're yearning for? Have you ever been asked that question? Has anybody ever just asked you and sat and listened to you to hear what it is that you want in life? When was the last time that somebody really did listen to you? Is anyone listening to you now? So I want you to think, I'm giving you a lot of things to just take away and really assess yourself. And I know it's a lot to think about. And I love the fact that you've joined this call, that you have valued yourself enough to just take time out of your busy schedule to be here on this call and giving yourself a chance to breathe and to be ministered to and to be nurtured and to be asked the questions and the hard questions that need to be asked about your life. It's no accident that we're on this call together. There was something that you wanted when you came on this call. You resonated with the overly productive woman. And so, what do you want to be? Fill in the blank. I want to be this. And then I want you to fill in this blank and appreciate who you are now. I am what? I am strong. I am confident. I'm authentic. Think about how you would finish that. What do you want to be? What is that thing that you aspire to be? there really is some truth in an old saying that death and life are in the power of the tongue. And so I'm asking you tonight, what are you speaking life into? Are you speaking life into all of the things that are going wrong and you're struggling with in your life, and that are just crises, that, you know, things that you're frustrated? Are you always speaking life into that? Because when you feed that negativity, it has a brain effect on you. I was really appreciative of something that Amanda Gleason, who is a consultant on my team, she sent along this great Facebook post about how when you're constantly complaining about things and you're always venting about the negative things that are happening in your life without any kind of balance, then it really does create neural pathways in your mind. And, you know, it creates like this very toxic effect on your body. So what do you need to speak life into? When are the times that you are speaking positively about yourself? Or, you know, in the midst of all the things that are going on in the world, the difficulties that are happening in the world and all, you know, I mean, we know that the media is crazy, especially around the political scene and you know, all the terrorist act. I mean, there's a lot of negativity out there, and what are you doing to speak life into the things that you want to be produced in your own life? And you know that whatever you're speaking, the people around you are impacted by that. So if you're a mother and you've got children, your children are watching that and they're looking at you as an example. And they're looking to see if you're going to take care of yourself and if you're going to speak positively about yourself, because they're going to gain their self-esteem and their self-image based on how you're showing up. So what are you speaking life into? And what are the things that you need to shut down? You know, what are the things that you need to, if you think about the purse metaphor, you know, and you're stuffing all kinds of stuff in there, but what is it that just absolutely needs to come out of your purse? Is there a bunch of negativity in there that you need to just put to death, that you need to throw in the trash? And what do you need to replace that with? What kinds of positive things can you put in your purse that you can carry with you, that are not a burden, that really fill your bucket and lift you up and cause you to value yourself so that other people can value, and so that you can share that value with other people and teach them how to value themselves? All right. I want to bring the call to a close, and one of the things that I've done is I've made a commitment to give someone a free seat to our July 28th women's retreat. Now, this women's retreat is pretty powerful. It's going to be a power-packed day. If you've been to the website and you've happened to check it out, it's a pretty powerful day for you to just start getting together an inspirational vision and plan that can really change the trajectory of your life. This is a great way to come together with other women and figure out what your mission is, what your vision is. And we will be talking about some business savvy. So it's going to be a part of it. You know, how do you show up and you influence, and how do you be visible, and how do you be authentic in this world where there is so much stress and so much pressure, and you keep putting a lot of pressure on yourself? So, you know, it's going to be a great day where we're going to have fun. So we're going to have a couple of guest speakers with us. Damsel in Defense is going to be with us, and then Prather Practice will be there. So we're going to be doing chair massages, but we're going to do a lot of work. We're going to have some fashion fun, and we're going to work on mission, mindset, and messaging. So you're going to get some on-the-spot coaching. You're going to get some deep attention, some much-needed attention, and you're going to get someone who is actually hearing you and listening deeply to who you are and what your value is, and to be able to reflect that value back to you. Also, on that day, we're going to call it Spa Day Every Day. So we're going to talk about how to bring balance into your overly productive world. And this is a very interactive session. So I know, like, for example, Julie's been to our Executive Presence Boot Camp, and it goes by very fast, but this is different. This is going to be specifically for women, and it is going to be very much about visioning. Towards the end of the day, we're going to do a wine and canvas, so that will be fun. Breakfast and lunch is going to be provided, and we're going to give some surprise gifts too. And so if you want to be a part of this and you want to get a free seat, what I need you to do is I need you to, let's see here, let me find my screen back here. If you're interested in getting a free seat, what I need you to do right now is I need you to send me an email right now at info@schoolofep.com, and I have written down a number, so that number is whichever, if you email me and you are this number in terms of the email that comes in at this particular spot, then you're going to get that free seat. So if you want the free seat, go ahead and email right now, info@schoolofep.com, and let me show that to you. It should be on your screen now, info@schoolofep.com. And if you'll go ahead and do that right now, and then I will tell you who's going to get the free seat. Let's see here. And while we're doing this, I just want to open it up and see if anyone have a comment about anything that I've shared with you today. Anyone have a comment? Okay, I think what I'm going to have to do, so I'm not able to get to my email screen right now. Let's see here. I'm not able to get to that email box. So what I'm going to have to do is directly after the call, what I'll do is I'll go into the info@schoolofep mailbox, and I will email you immediately if you are the one who gets the free seat for our upcoming retreat on July the 28th. So ladies, I want to thank you for joining the call, and I want to encourage you to assess yourself over this next week. Remember to be thinking about, where are you putting yourself under undue pressure? Who are some of the people on your internal committee? And if you think about your purse, what do you need to take out and what do you need to put in? Do you know what your mission is? Lots of things to be thinking about. So ladies, thank you so much for joining. Julie, Ruth, I appreciate you calling. And all my people on Facebook Live who joined, I really appreciate the fact that you have joined. And I will be announcing our winner here in just a moment. Cassandra, thanks for joining. Thanks for listening in. I know it's late, and thank you for giving me your time. We're going to do this again next Thursday. Same time, same place. You'll get a notification, so feel free to join in. I would love to hear some of the insights that you work on over this next week, and then we'll reconvene. We'll talk about that. We'll get a chance to, if you want to walk through some coaching, we will. But next week I'll also have 3 different truths that we're going to talk about.